Hello everybody, Ari here. Today we're going to talk about a slightly controversial subject in Marvel Snap, and that is bots. Yes, there are bots in the game and they serve multiple purposes. In today's video, we're going to learn everything that has to do with bots. How do you recognize bots? Bots are going to be using the very early beginner, most of the bots. There are bots that don't do that. The very early beginner avatars. So once you see one of these avatars, e.g. Gamora, Colossus, Abomination, Ant-Man, M'Baku, Medusa, America Chavez, Aero, Misty Knight, mainly though Shang-Chi, Cyclops, Colossus, America Chavez, M'Baku, Medusa, those are the most common avatars for bots, right? Another way that you can tell your opponent is a bot is from their name. Usually their name is going to be like one word, like Brittany or Leon or Willow. These kind of names are very common amongst bots. Another way you can tell, the easiest way of all, is by your queue time. If you've been in the queue for a long time, then there's a very high probability your next opponent is a bot. So if you combine all these three, long queue time, the avatar, and the name, it's very easy to understand at the beginning of the match when you're facing a bot. Now, once you're into the game, there are a lot of ways that bots behave. They play in a very similar pattern and in a very similar way that is very easy to identify. First of all, bots will not play around. Superflow, Murder World, and Lechguila. So they don't play around these locations. If you see Superflow on turn 1 and someone plays in it, there's a high chance they're a bot. If you see Murder World on turn 1 and they play in it, there's a very high chance they're a bot. So they don't play around these locations. The second thing you're going to notice is that bots always want to have initiative. Always. Every single turn, they're going to play in a way, even if it doesn't make sense, that's going to give them initiative even by 1 point. They always want to have initiative. They are always trying to push to be winning all the time, so they have initiative. Why they do that? Because they can see your plays. And because they can see your plays, at the early stages, when you're learning a game, when you have a new account, and you're trying to learn the game, and you're playing against bots all the time, the bots want to let you win. How do they let you win? By having initiative and knowing what you're playing. So they will play around your plays in order for you to win. And that's how you learn the game. Sometimes they're going to force a loss on you so that you learn how to retreat, etc. But mainly they just let you win. As of this moment, I think bots don't emote back. I don't know if they're going to change it in the next patch or a few, but we also know that bots don't emote back. That's what we call in the stream a Turing test. If we suspect someone's a bot, we'll emote at them at the very beginning, and if they don't emote back, it's almost confirmed. The third way, I don't know, I lost count. The next way that you understand that your opponent is a bot is through their splits. If you split a card, you get various effects on it, right? Like Inkify and all these effects around it. Bots can sometimes have a non-Inkify split or the base card with the base background with an effect around it, which is not possible to acquire if you're a human player. So if you see your opponent, this is very rare, but it happens. If you see that your opponent has the default background, the default card without any change in the background, but it also has an animation around it, it means they're a bot because that variant is unobtainable for human players. It's a guaranteed tell, 100%. Your opponent is a bot. No human player can acquire that card. So we said they don't play around certain locations. They always try to have initiative. They will never fill locations before turn 6. They will always leave one slot open. And finally, they will always snap on turn 4, 5, and 6. On turn 4, if they're ahead by a lot, they will snap at the beginning of the turn. Always. At the beginning of turn 4, they will insta-snap if they're ahead by a lot. On turn 5, if they're ahead on 2 locations, even by 1 point, they'll insta-snap. Same with turn 6. So long as you are allowing them to win, on turn 4, 5, and 6, they will snap you, and then you can snap them back for an easy 8 cubes. As long as you know what you're doing and you can easily beat them. Now, regarding cards, which cards are used to fool bots? You all saw now, Invisible Woman. They don't count the points behind Invisible Woman, so they don't play around. Dracula is a card that baits bots right here. They always calculate Dracula as 0 power. They never calculate the power that Dracula is going to get. So even if they're ahead in the location that you play Dracula by 1 point, they'll not play any other cards. They'll think that they're winning there. So long as you don't go over their points, they won't play any other cards in that location. They'll just assume that they're winning that location and try to win one of the other two. Unfortunately, all these cards are in pool 3. And then Mysterio is also a very good card to full bots because, again, the same thing. They don't calculate the points. They calculate all the Mysterio clones as 0. So they will not play in the location where the real Mysterio is. Magic used to be the card to beat bots because you could play it on turn 6. And then on turn 6, bots would fill 2 locations and you would know 100% if you could beat them or not. Now, Magic isn't playable on turn 6. But still, because of the way the bots are coded, they will still fill at least 1 location, maybe even 2 on turn 6, even though there's a turn 7. That gives you an insane amount of info, and you can easily calculate whether you can win in those 2 locations, and they can't counter you, really, because most bots don't even play item. Final card is Daredevil. I completely forgot about this card. Daredevil is obviously a cheat against bots because they can't play around your place. They have to play before you. Cards you should never play against bots. Leader. Never play a leader against a bot. Never, ever. If you're sure your opponent is a bot, do not play leader. You will lose. You will lose. For some reason, bots hate leader. They despise this card. They will always play around it. They will always make the perfect play so that you lose the game. Do not play leader against bots. You will lose. And you should always retreat against a vision bot if it's a 50-50. If you're not sure that you're winning 100%, if they have ways to manipulate vision, they're gonna take vision to a location that's gonna beat you. Do not challenge vision bots. They will take your cubes. Vision bots are the worst of the worst. Bots' abilities, if you don't know what abilities bots have, number 1, they have the Daredevil ability. They can see your place before they do their own. And also, they know all the RNG results. Every RNG result that is going on the board, the bots know it before it happens. If you play a Jubilee, the bot knows where you played the Jubilee and what's going to come out of the Jubilee before they make their play. Always remember that if you tempo out hard against the bot and you don't allow them to win at least 1 location, they are going to retreat. Bots need to win 1 location. If they're not winning at least 1 location, even by 1 point, they're going to retreat. And you're not going to take the 8 cubes. So watch out how you're tempoing out against the bot. That's about all I know about bots. I hope you learned something.